Hey guys, I just want to do a quick lesson on finding the volume of a triangular prism. First off, I just want to reiterate or kind of go back on the idea of why when we look at the shape that's drawn here, we call it a triangular prism. All of you know it's a triangular prism because it has two ends that are triangles, and we call that a base shape. So when we're looking at the volume formula as being a base area times a height, and sometimes we say height or sometimes we say length, depending upon whether my prism is on its side or whether it's standing up. In this circumstance, instead of height, I would actually probably use the word length, and that's because this prism is sitting on its side. So if I say length here instead, what I'm referring to essentially this height or this length component, this is basically the separation between my base shapes. So if it's standing on end, it'll be a height because it's going up and down. If it's sitting on its side, it'll be a length going forward and backwards. Okay, so knowing that and having that idea, then it's easy for us to do calculations in volume. We simply have to find the area of that base shape. In this case, it's a triangle. So this formula actually turns into a slightly different formula. It turns into volume is equal to, and my base area, this time it's a triangle, so I have always gotten the formula base times height divided by 2. That's my formula for area for a triangle, and I'm going to times that, and I said I'm going to multiply that by my length. So all of a sudden I've just put my variables in for the different levels. Now if for a triangle you would have said AB divided by 2, altitude times base divided by 2, that would have been perfectly fine to substitute those letters in place of B and H. I just use B and H because that seems to be the more common way to find the area for your triangle. So knowing that, I can now kind of look at things and I can just start substituting in. So I'm looking for my volume, which is V in this case. My base, based on the triangle, the base is 6 centimeters. And I'm timesing that by my height, which is 4 centimeters. And I'm taking all of that and I'm dividing it by 2 because that's how I find the area of that front piece. I'm then going to take that answer and multiply it by my length. And in this case, my length is 10. So putting the numbers together, 6 times 4 is 24, divided by 2 is 12. So now I have 12 centimeters squared because I found area, and I'm timesing that by my 10 centimeters. And 12 times 10 is 120 centimeters cubed. Cubic measurement is the way we measure volume. So when we see it, we know that we're getting a volume measurement. So that's essentially the steps for finding the volume for a triangular prism. Doesn't matter whether my triangular prism looks like this. If I try and draw something standing up on end, I could draw something like this, and we have a triangle standing up on end. Now the ground is basically where the one triangle's in the ground. Again, we have to have the same kind of measurements we would need as before. We would need to have an altitude or a height to it. We'd have to have a measurement for my base, and we'd simply go through these steps. So if this was, let's say, again, I'm going to do the same problem. This one's 6 centimeters, and this one's 4 centimeters. And we said in the previous question that this side length was 5 centimeters. So if that was that exact same prism standing on end, its volume shouldn't be any different. It's the same prism, same measurements. The only difference is it's an up and down. In this circumstance, I would probably look at calculating my volume as being an area of my base times, in this case, I would actually use my height because this 10 centimeters that was from the previous question, that's a height now when I look at it this way. Same exact approach. Focus on my base shape, which is my triangle. It's going to be base times height divided by 2. And this time it's multiplied by my prism height. So this is a prism height, not a triangle height. So it's a bit different. We're using the same letter to represent different things. And this is where some of that confusion starts. That's why A and B might be the easier way to look at things. But at the end of the day, it's important to have that idea that we use symbols to represent different, or variables to represent different things. So my base in this case was 6 centimeters. My height of my triangle, because this is the area of my base of my triangle, is going to be 4 centimeters. That's going to be divided by 2, and I'm getting the exact same measurements, obviously. The height is the up and down. That was 10 centimeters. And I can do the exact same thing where I go 12 times 10, and I have the exact same measurement for my volume. So you can notice that it doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything whether my prism is standing upright or whether it's laying down, because I'm tried to build these prisms the same. I realize my pictures don't make it look exact, but essentially what I did is I took the prism and I set it on its edge, and we had it standing upright. Hope that makes sense. If you have questions, definitely ask, okay? Thanks, guys.